Hi, and welcome back to this episode with Lisa Chan. Lisa's mission is to enlighten women to be liberated in their sexuality through the creation of through TrufElle, a cannabis infused aphrodisiac chocolate. She is able to share the tools that reignite that feeling of intensity for couples. Lisa holds an MBA in Sutter School of Business at UBC and has established business in the field of real estate development. Hi, and welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Victoria. How are you doing?
Really well. I'm so glad to have you here with us. So speaking, about chocolate, it's always like such a interesting topic. And I'm like a big chocolate lover. I already shared with you. I wanted to have my chocolate company years ago, and then I chose coaching. But I am big fan. So I would love to know your story. How did you create the chocolate, your TrufElle?
So I've always been one that was passionate about cooking and experimenting. But what really started it for me was at the time when I turned 40, I was going through what I thought was a midlife crisis. Because at the time I was already married for 24 years. No, sorry, I was married for 14, but I've been with the same guy for 24 years. So, needless to say, things were getting a little bit boring. And I was going through a midlife boredom. And I just thought, okay, well, life can't be like this, having the same sex to the same guy for the rest of my life. No, I got to do something about it. So that's when I started experimenting with cannabis. And right around that time, 2017, 2018, was when Canada legalized cannabis throughout the whole country. So it was a very exciting time. And that's when I started experimenting with cannabis, edibles specifically. And I realized that THC in cannabis is an aphrodisiac. And what it does, it totally enhances the so that the orgasms become mind-blowing. And that was what got me hooked.
Well, who doesn't want crazy orgasms?
That's right. We call it going from maintenance sex to mind-blowing sex, vacation sex at home.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so I started experimenting. I'm like, wow, this is really good stuff. Maybe I can start making my own chocolates because I have so many friends. So like once I'm on this bandwagon, I just go full speed and I'm all in. I just started telling everybody about it. I'm like, gosh, have you tried it for as an aphrodisiac? And then I started just making my own chocolate, like a high quality chocolate, because I'm not a big fan of like candies and gummies, what they have out there. So I started making a really high quality infused aphrodisiac chocolate and had so many guinea pigs lined up. The biggest guinea pig, of course, was my own husband. And because of his willingness and openness to try cannabis and to try new things and that, it totally recreated our relationship. So now it's been 4 years since I've been on this journey. I'm on my fourth marriage to the same guy.
Oh, that is so cool. It's so always so heartwarming to hear it when people reignite and like have that love for us for such a long time. And it's beautiful, interesting. It's aphrodisiac chocolate. So now we know where to go. If you have some things, now we know what to do.
Exactly.
That is,
So, yeah, I mean, the really fun part about this all, I think, was discovering what I wanted in my sexuality. So and then how did I do that? I started normalizing the conversations around sex with my friends. So I'm a questioner, I'm a natural questioner. So I was asking them questions like, when was the last time you passionately kissed your partner? Or, like, when was the last time you had that intense in love feeling with your husband or your boyfriend? And it really made created these conversations such as like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, what does it even mean for what's the definition of a man that's good and bad, or a woman that's good and bad? Like those were the kind of conversations that we were normalizing, whereas before I never talked about it at all. Like coming from the Asian Chinese background, we were very quite conservative. But then the more I started being vulnerable with myself, I realized that people were open to being vulnerable with me. And that caused this kind of authenticity. But even more importantly is like this uninhibition, that I was willing to speak my truth and willing to ask those hard questions, which is a very masculine trait sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you inspire others women to be sexual liberated?
Well, I got them to try my chocolates. That was a big piece of it. Because I realized when people use cannabis, their ego goes down. Like they get out of their head and into their heart. And that's the feminine part that I really love, that cannabis brings out in people. It brings out the heart and makes the ego go away, temporarily anyway. But it's a muscle, you know, as you start building that muscle about speaking your truth, being authentic and talking about sex, even when you're sober, if you talk about it enough, it just becomes the new normal. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and you touched on, you say that's like very masculine trait of asking, but like receiving, we chat a little bit before this interview, receiving, it's very feminine trait of, and you can't receive if you don't ask. So how do we really dance with this?
Exactly. That's a very good question. So what I devised was a three-step process to owning my sexual pleasure. And that is three steps. Number one is discovering what you want. Number two, asking for what you want. And then finally, number three, getting what you want. And these three traits, I realized it could be applied to everything in life. But if you could master the sex part, asking for what you want in sex, there really isn't anything else you couldn't ask for. Because asking for what you want in bed is really scary. And it took me quite a few years to get there. But once I was able to do it, it felt so liberating and free.
That's amazing. So how does that will help us in business, in that energy that you're creating through sex or through chocolate, eating chocolate?
Yeah, well, discover the three-step process, like the discovering what you want. I think that's very important in business, especially when you're starting out, or you could constantly reevaluate the why. Like, why are you in business? Why are you doing the business that you're doing? What is the passion there that got you started? So be very, very clear on what it is that you want and what your why in your business. That is key, number one, most important thing. So my why was born from the boredom and being with someone for very long, and the desire to be desired, to be in a passionate relationship. I think everybody can admit that they want to be accepted and loved, but not many people are willing to admit that they want to be desired, especially sexually. So having that recognition and putting that out there is really important. So put it out there, what you want in your business. And then once you're clear on that, start asking for it. So selection is very important. Ask the right people. So whatever you need to move your business ahead, isolate who those people are and start asking those people for what it is that you want. And of course, you have to bring value to them too, right? So, it could be information exchange, networking exchange, referrals, any one of those ways. The important thing is asking the right people the right questions. And lastly, getting what you want. That is the easy part, you would think. But again, as a woman, are supposed to be good at receiving because that's a feminine trait, but not all of us are. So we need how to learn how to receive gracefully, and that is the key.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is so key. The divine masculine and divine feminine, it's always a learning for us. It's always a lesson. I'm kind of curious on how did you created the company, right? The chocolate, and what really got in the way maybe sometimes, or obstacles that you've faced while creating a new business, because real estate, where you're at, and chocolate, it's like two completely different worlds.
Yes. You know, I'm very, very blessed that I was very successful early on in my real estate career. So money was never an issue for me in creating this chocolate business. In the beginning, my husband used to make a joke and say, you know, you're making like hundreds of dollars in my chocolate business. But, you know, to me, it was never about the money. It was always about inspiring women and motivating them to be sexually liberated. Because I believe if you could ask for what you want and get what you want in bed, there's nothing else you couldn't do. So that's a huge obstacle for a lot of women. So my chocolate business is more about, it's more like a mission, I would say, a mission that we provide tools and chocolates and educational. We have educational events. We call them play shops and edu parties, where women and men and couples can come together and we can learn about each other, like how we work and stuff like that. There's this one seminar that we do, and we will be offering it as a free promo online in the near future. But what it is discovering your sex language. We all know what our love language is, the 5 love languages, but there's 4 sex types that we belong to. And before knowing that, I thought I was weird, or like, because we would talk about things with girlfriends and like, you like that, or you like role play. I don't know if I do. Like, so after all that discussion, we just realized we're not weird. We're just different. We're like, what we desire and what we find sexy and what we turns us on is completely different to what turns him on or her on. So knowing what turns you on is very important. So it's important to know what your sex language is.
What are they? What is the 4?
The 4, okay.
Let's try to put ourselves in the bucket of sex languages. I'm curious.
Okay. Yeah, so a good friend of mine, Petra Zebra, I'm giving her credit for this because she's writing a book on this whole topic, is there the 4 types. She used to coach, she's a sex therapist. So when couples would go to her and they would be fighting about desire and turn-ons and stuff like that, she noticed like groupings of people wanting the same things. So she devised a test, and I think there's like hundreds and thousands of people that's already filled out the survey. So there's a lot of credibility to this. So the 4 types that she identified, the first type is me, like I'm an intimate. So why was I able to stay in a relationship for 28 years with the same guy? It's because I value intimacy. I value emotional connection. I do not do well with one-night stands. That's my type, intimate. I'm also a sensualist. So I love being massaged, being touched. I love all the senses, you know, like the smells, the candles. I want it all. Like, it's, for me, gourmet, it's gourmet sex, I call it. Slow sex. It's just, you know, no hurry at all. That's how I define a man that's good in bed. A man that is in no hurry at all. So moving on to the 3rd type, what we call a behaviorist. So that is all about the act. They love the role plays. They love the costumes. It's about it's about the mind, you know, really getting into there and picturing the mind. Like, maybe those are the kind of guys that send DPs over a text. But as an intimate, I do not find that attractive at all. But those people that are sending naked pictures, very high chance that they are probably a behaviorist. Nothing wrong, but that's their type, right? Before knowing that there was a type like that, I used to think they're weird, but nothing wrong with that type.
And the 4th one?
And the 4th one is actually a very common, more common type for women. and we call those the attractors. So attractors, they love to be adored. They love to be admired. They love to flirt. They like to lead people on without going anywhere, because they just love the tease. They love, the play and the chase. That's what they love. Those are attractors, and you can tell because they are usually the very well dressed ones. They look good to feel good. So those are the detractors. Nothing, and again, nothing wrong with that too. But realizing that you are an attractor takes out the judgment in what we think of other people if we know that's their type.
That is so cool. I love it. I'm pretty sure that everybody who's listening put themselves in the one bucket or another.
Yeah, I can actually leave a link on your show notes with the survey, so people can actually take the survey and see what type they are.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Just they can always send me to my community number, like what their type are there if they want to chat, or always welcome. And this is so interesting. So we are all different, and again, it's like love language. We get to know each other love language, and I feel like so good to know each other's sex language, so that you are not just in love together, but actually having a great sex, because that's two different things.
That's very important. People underestimate how important it is, but yeah, I say, and my girlfriends, we all agree, there are no bitchy women out there. They're just, I don't know if I can swear, but women that are not having enough sex.
Yeah. And I feel like in society, I'm Russian, and like in Russia, being very like sexual, it's just so shame. Like people will, they're very conservative. They're very conservative, like in Asia. So I mean, they look beautiful and gorgeous, like in Moscow, but like if you go to the whole Russia, it's very conservative. If you have something like this, it's like, oh my gosh, like put on something on yourself.
Well,
So,
I was kind of
very shamed. It's like more of a shame to be that feminine, and that's where women carry on a lot. And I believe that sex is definitely a big part of our life. We don't get to shame or be embarrassed about it. And the sacral chakra, this what gives us joy, it's a very feminine energy, and it's manifesting like crazy. If you have a happy sexual life, you will have manifestation like every day happening like crazy.
I truly believe that. Wonderful things has 100%. Happened ever since I created the chocolate business. And for all the women and my girlfriends around me, their sex life has just changed dramatically, like their relationships. And then it's like this trickle effect, because the partners are happier, and then the kids are happier, and the community is happier. It's just, it's just so wonderful to be able to do
tied together, all tied together. Well, thank you so much. What is your next adventure? Chocolate, do you have like any ideas what you're gonna create? Chocolate,
yes,
some cool chocolate?
I will continue to offer the chocolates, but I'm going to be focusing more on the other tools that are necessary to have a fulfilling sex life, such as more these seminars and play parties in person. After COVID is over, we're going to have more in-person events where we had so much fun just connecting with other women and being able to talk about sex removing the shame about when you're talking about sex. And that I want to do more of. I want to do more speaking, building my personal brand. So please follow me on Instagram, Desire TrufElle, spelled DeSiretruFelle. So TrufElle, it stands for truffles for her, TrufElle. So a good way to remember is I fell for TrufElle. That's how we pronounce it. And we're also on Facebook. Yes. Under the same name.
Awesome. I know that Lisa is offering, if you follow her on Instagram and DM her, that I know that the seminar is coming up on how discover your sex language and getting deeper into that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. People have a lot of fun doing that seminar, and even it's going to be offered online, because we don't know when we can have it in person yet, but it will be just as powerful.
Awesome. Well, beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on and, openly share about these topics that are not usually shared openly about it. And thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode in this show. If you want to find all links, they're going to be linked in show notes or here or here. So definitely follow it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks so
And
much, Victoria. Nice talking to you.
nice talking to you. And I will see you in the next show. Bye.
Bye.
And if you love this episode and you would love to see more of that, click the subscribe button to Purposeful Woman Podcast. And don't forget to text us to stay in tune with the Purposeful community for awesome tricks by texting to number +1 401 399 4105. And we will link descriptions in the episode to all of that we mentioned today. Bye. Turn your one day to day one with a purposeful day.